They called the outer frontier the Silent Verge, a ring of fractured stations orbiting a nameless star. Merchants bartered scraps of steel for crumbs of bread. Children played in corridors where gravity failed, and most lived without hope of change. But beyond the verge, legends whispered of colossal guardians who once shielded humankind from the storms of the void. They were not angels, not machines, but something between, creatures of light and alloy, built to protect and to endure. Most believed those tales were myths buried in dust, until one salvager named Idris stumbled upon a shard pulsing with warmth inside the hull of a wreck. It was no ordinary relic. It beat like a heart, humming in tones older than language. When he held it, visions burst across his mind, hands of starlight shielding fragile ships, voices reciting oaths of guardianship, and then betrayal. The guardians bound in chains forged from suns. Idris did not want destiny. He wanted survival. But from that moment, survival and destiny became the same road. The shard's awakening sent ripples across the colonies. Fleets scrambled, governments whispered, and soldiers were dispatched to retrieve it. To the powerful, the shard was not memory. It was a weapon waiting to be claimed. Idris fled, hunted across broken stations and starless corridors. That was when he met Celine. She was half human, half augmented, carrying fragments of data etched into her very spine. She recognized the shard immediately. She said, "It belongs to one who sleeps in the bastion of chains, a guardian betrayed and shackled in darkness. If it wakes, it will remember either love or vengeance." Together, they fled from hunters who painted the void with fire. Idris felt the shard grow hotter with every passing night, and in his dreams, the voice of the Colossus spoke to him. "Remember mercy, remember me." But others whispered a different truth, that mercy was weakness, and that awakening such a being could doom humanity to its own arrogance. At last, Idris and Celine reached the bastion, a fortress orbiting a dying star. Its walls glimmered with chains woven of compressed starlight, wrapped around a form so vast it seemed like a mountain carved into the heavens. There lay the Colossus, silent, unmoving, its chest hollow where a heart had once been. The shard pulsed violently in Idris's palm, as though recognizing the empty space before him. But before he could act, soldiers stormed the chamber, weapons raised. Their commander demanded the shard. He spoke of control, obedience, conquest. The Colossus, he promised, would kneel again. Caught between fear and conviction, Idris stepped forward. He placed the shard into the hollow chest. The chamber trembled, chains blazed with furious light. The Colossus stirred, eyes igniting like dawn over a dead world. Its voice rumbled through the marrow of every living soul. "You bound me once. Will you bind me again, or will you trust me?" Silence followed, but the commander broke it with a single order: fire. The chamber erupted, weapons unleashed fury, but the Colossus rose. Instead of wrath, its first act was to shield Idris and Celine. Blasts scorched against its body, but its hands became walls of light, protecting instead of destroying. Soldiers faltered, realizing the being they sought to enslave still remembered its oath. Idris shouted above the chaos, "You were betrayed, but not by all of us. Remember the promise you once made."
The Colossus froze, trembling under the weight of choice, rage or guardianship. Then, with a sound like chains breaking, it chose. It swept aside the fleets, not in anger, but with precise mercy, sparing lives even as it broke weapons. When silence returned, the Colossus looked at Idris. One man's faith awakened me. Then one man's faith shall guide me. Idris knew his life was bound to this guardian forever. He had not awakened a monster. He had reminded a protector of its purpose. From that day forward, humanity no longer looked to myths for safety. They looked to the stars and remembered the day the silent Colossus shed its first tear, not of grief, but of hope.